I'm your Countdown host, MJ Book, back here for another episode here in the world of the Countdown. I just finished recording an episode just the other day as I'm recording this one. Still getting that one edited as far as the audio, but it is available on the YouTube channel. Please check that out and subscribe. Did a countdown of action movies from 2000 to 2009. Had a guest, Eric, with me. I'm sure for you listeners and viewers, you remember our countdown about 90s action heroes or movies, which became my favorite episode of last season. So please check that out. I'll get that audio hopefully sometime within the week. But got another countdown here. And no, this is not action movies. And no, it's not a continuation of my 80s movies. This is finally jumping into a different category. I know some of you have probably gotten sick of me doing movies, so I have a different topic this time. And since it's a different topic, I might as well have a different guest. So I have a guest here with me. I've known this guy a very long time. I don't think it's tough to say that it's probably been about half my life nearly I've known this guy. He's one of my friends. We used to be roommates. His name is Anthony, but I don't call him that. So you're going to hear me call him by what I've known him forever, Freak. So Freak, what's up?
Oh, not much.
So tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I'm Freak, longtime friend of MJ Book, or as I know him, Booker. Married with kids. Just recently got a new puppy, and I used to be a host of a podcast called Zombie Anonymous, and we don't record anymore, but you might be able to find the episodes out there on YouTube or iTunes and wherever else you find your podcast.
And who was some of the guys you had on that show? Because there's one particular that I did know because we worked together.
Did I have AJ on there? I can't remember if I had him on an episode or not. No, it's been so long.
Biggie, big guy. Yeah. The interesting story about him, he and I were originally going to do a podcast, and we were going to do a show called Sit Down, and it wasn't able to happen. We weren't able to do it. So I had to do it on my own, and that became the countdown. So that's an interesting little side story. Sounds like you got a guest in the background.
Yes, he decided he needs to protect the neighbors from somebody honking their horn.
Good grief. Anyway, like I said, got a countdown here for you. It is a different topic, and I'm dipping finally into the world of video games. One thing that Freak and I definitely have in common, we are both gamers. We may play some different games, maybe into some different games, but overall we are still gamers, and this is our countdown list of our favorite Super Nintendo video games. Now, this was a rough list because Super Nintendo, I haven't played it in well over 20 years. How difficult of compiling this list was for you?
Oh, this was easy. It's like a lot of these games I still play regularly, every couple of years or so at least. And some of them I've played 2 or 3 times just in the past year. And it's easy because a lot of them are things you can find on the Switch now. But like one on the list is just one I want to play again, and it hasn't been put on the Switch, and I just don't feel like finding an emulator for it because it's not as fun to play with on a computer with the keyboard.
Yeah, I'm just not a computer gamer. That's one of our differences. You're more of a computer gamer. I'm more of the console type of gamer, so it makes it a little rough for me to play some of those older games. But
I've gone more console in the last few years than computer. But hold on, I'm going to put him in his kennel. That might shut him up.
All right. No problem, man. I'm going to pause this real quick. All right. And like I said, we're going to be counting down our favorite Super Nintendo video games. For me, this was a little rough for me, like I said, to put this list together because I haven't played most of these games literally in 20 years. And the Super Nintendo pissed me off with Mortal Kombat when they edited out the blood and made it sweat. So I quit Super Nintendo and jumped into Genesis, from Genesis to PlayStation, and that's where I am still. So this was a little harder for me, but still fun. Did you have any honorable mentions you'd like to throw out?
Well, one I loved was Booger Man. I don't know if you played that.
I played it.
On the Super Nintendo, they had one button that all it did was Booger Man would look at out at the screen and say, Booger.
Yeah, I wasn't too big on Booger Man. Since my last name is Booker, people already were saying Booger as a kid. So a video game called Booger Man did not make life any easier. So for some reason, just couldn't dedicate a lot of time to that game. But this is a 10 spot countdown. I do have some honorable mentions myself. I'm just going to quickly run down these. Super Star Wars, Super Empire Strikes Back, and Super Return of the Jedi. Still, it's amazing.
Yeah, they
Star
did not
Wars.
make the cut, but yeah.
It's amazing that the Star Wars franchise to this day, to me, still cannot top those games. They've gotten close a couple of times, but for me, they still can't top those originals.
Oh, some of the X-Wing fighter games with the PlayStation VR are pretty fun.
I have to take your word. I don't have a VR system, so I have to take your word for it. Super Punch Out, even though it was no Mike Tyson, but loved playing Super Punch Out. And of course, Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, I know I played that. I can't remember if I ever beat it.
I did. Any game I owned back then, I beat it. Because I wasn't going to let the game beat me. All right, let's get started with this countdown. Like I said, it's a 10 spot countdown. As the guest, you get to start her off. What's your number 10?
Number 10 is Super Mario World. It's the game that came with the system, the first game I played on it, probably the first game I beat. Because I know when we got it, then I guess another honorable mention would be F-Zero, because those are the two games I got when I first got the Super NES. And F-Zero was fucking hard at the time, so I know that I probably beat this one first. It's like Super Mario Brothers. Who doesn't like the Super Mario Brothers game? It's like, yeah, they're simple to understand how to play, but they're difficult to actually get to the end. And a couple of years ago, I bought it on the Wii U, and I showed my kids how I could beat the game by only beating 12 levels. I think it was 12 levels, but I knew all the secret passages to get to the very end. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know if I could beat the secret level anymore, but
the secret level. I forgot about that thing.
Yeah, I was able to beat it then, and it took me a while, but now, yeah, I'm not sure if I could.
Well, I have the Nintendo Mini, and when I bought the Mini, I was amazed. I thought, okay, I play much more complicated games now. Some of these games should be a piece of cake. So I started with Legend of Zelda, and I thought, I'll just tear through this now. Nope. It's amazing why those games are still tough, even though I've played far tougher games like Super Mario. I went and played that. I figured I'll tear through this. Nope, I had problems going through that. It's amazing. I don't know why. Maybe it's the muscle memory and that my muscles just remember dying a whole lot.
Well, no, older games are harder because they had the mindset people plugging quarters into the arcade, because first there was arcade games before there was consoles, so the people making the games were just used to making them so hard.
Yeah, the arcade games are always harder.
Yeah, so that when they went to consoles, yes, it has to be hard. Everybody's gonna die a lot. So that's my theory. That's my theory. I could be wrong,
it's a good theory.
Because I think a lot of games now are a lot easier.
It's an interesting theory. I don't, it's definitely something to think about. My number 10. And for those who knew me back then and know me now, this is going to shock some people that this game would even be on my list, or it's even a game that I ever played, because the topic is not something I was a fan of. It's based off a TV show that had a movie. I hated the TV show and never watched the movie. But for some reason, I found this game, liked this game, and it was one of the first games I actually remembered playing. So try not to laugh at me too hard, but my number 10 is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, the game.
Never played
it. I don't know how this game found me. I hated the Power Rangers. I was maybe a little early teen when that show first got its kick. I thought they were stupid. Obviously, I thought the Pink Ranger obviously was hot. I thought the Green Ranger was cool, but not enough for me to watch the damn show. Somehow I found this video game. I think if I remember right, my mother had bought me this game and just thought I would like it. And well, I'm now stuck with the game. She bought it. I have to play it. I played it and I ended up liking it. Still will never watch the movie. I will never watch that dumb show, but I thoroughly enjoyed running around, and I always was Tommy. I was never anybody else. And at this point, as you can see on the cover, if you could see, he's the White Ranger at this point. I don't know how that happened because I never watched it. So I don't know how he went from green to white. If y'all listeners or viewers know, go ahead and say it or send me a message or comment, because I just never watched it. But this was a fun side scroller. It's like I said, I don't know why, but this game stuck to me. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. It's my cross to bear. I love that game. I would play that game right now if I could. That's my number 10. What you got, number 9?
Number 9 is UN Squadron. I love this game. If you're flying a plane and just shooting your enemies down, and you can upgrade. Oh, my memory could be wrong on this, but I remember buying different weapons and different items to use on your ship as you were playing. And it's the one that I don't want to play on an emulator because it won't be fun with the keyboard. And so I'm hoping that the Switch adds it to their list of games that they have on their Super NES emulator that they provide free. But I remember loving this game and playing it a lot. I don't think I ever beat it, but it was a great game in my opinion.
I can't say anything. I'm trying to remember that game. I don't know if that came out for my drop off of Super Nintendo or if it came out after, because once I dropped. I didn't even pay attention to Super Nintendo news anymore. So there was a firm line. I never went back except for that Nintendo Mini. And I'm not sure that's going forward. It's just
it's not the Super NES Mini, is it?
No, it's just regular. No, it's just the Nintendo Mini.
Yeah, I got the Nintendo Mini. I never got the SNES Mini.
Honestly, the Super Nintendo Mini did not have a lot of games on it that I wanted to play, so I just never got it. And I don't know if they did a Genesis one. There wouldn't be enough on there. And PlayStation 1, I still have my PlayStation. So PlayStation Mini to me makes no sense. All right. My number 9. Oh, at least I'm back to something that I actually was a fan of, like the Power Ranger one. As a kid, there are certain things I was definitely a fan of, and this is one of the big ones. This is a topic that still impacts me. In fact, there are certain people over at Third Generation Wrestling, show that I mention a lot, and it's a host who've been on this show a lot. They would be interested in this because this involves professional wrestling. I've always been a professional wrestling fan. I don't care what people say. It is entertainment, and I still watch professional wrestling today. So number 9 is Super WrestleMania. Now, I didn't like a certain person on the cover. That would be that guy right there, Hulk Hogan, who was the biggest star in the company and one of the biggest stars in history. But this had the Road Warriors, my favorite tag team, Psycho Sid, the Macho Man. This had a lot of my favorite characters and a lot of my favorite wrestlers. So I really, really loved playing this game. And I would always make myself beat the hell out of Hulk Hogan because I just did not like him. I never played that game once as Hulk Hogan. I would always beat the hell out of Hulk Hogan, but I'd never faced Hulk or never played as Hulk Hogan. So I was an odd kid because a lot of people I'd be playing this game with other people and they would rush to be Hogan. They would say, I'm Hogan. And I'm like, do you really think I was going to say I want to be Hogan? You can have him. Take him.
It is quite funny.
Yeah. What?
When my kids were a lot younger, then I decided to go through and watch all the Rocky movies. I think it was the third one.
Yeah, Rocky Hulk, 3. Yes. Thunder Lips.
And so one of my kids came inside and saw that and ran outside. I think it was my son. He went out and got his sister and said, hey, there's somebody on the TV in underwear. And he must have liked the show because he sat down and finished watching it. But that was what drew his attention, was Hulk Hogan in his underwear. It's like, hey, there's somebody in his underwear.
He was in wrestling tights.
I know
underwear.
that. But
yeah, I know. A lot of people always say that people are in their underwear. Whatever. It's wrestling tight. You tried doing a lot of those moves. You know, that's what you should wear. It's more comfortable. You're able to move more.
It's maybe 4 or 5. So it's like, seeing Hulk Hogan on there, then it's like just reminding me of that story.
Oh yeah, Thunder Lips in the flesh, baby. The ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball, I believe was his line. Yes, I've watched that movie too many, but. Like I said, Super WrestleMania, the wrestling games, I continue playing wrestling games all the way up until PlayStation 3. I think it was PlayStation 3. Yeah, PlayStation 3. And then the wrestling games just did not get good anymore. And the last one was an absolute fucking disaster. So, but I have fond memories of Super WrestleMania. This had an arcade version as well. A lot of the wrestling games had arcade versions. I played those a lot. That's probably the video game franchise that got the most of my money other than Turtles. Oh, come on. Everybody was playing Turtles too. But that's it. That's my number 9. It's Super WrestleMania. What you got as number 8?
Okay. Number 8 was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I'm not sure. I don't think I liked it as much when I first played it because there was a big difference from the Final Fantasy series. But then as I've gotten older and played it again, it's like it had its points that were really good. And I remember, well, one thing I remember is that it was the first game of this type that gave you a chance to just say, let your players do their characters choose what their attack modes. And so you could either choose it yourself or tell the computer, okay, do what you think is best. And so before that, I never had the idea that you could use a healing spell to damage undead creatures. And it makes sense, but I was just that young and just never thought about it. And that's just one of the points in there that it's like Mystic Quest surprised me with. And it's like, this is one of them I go every now and then I'll find on an emulator and go replay.
Yeah, Final Fantasy to me is so far away from any game I would ever want to fucking play.
Yeah,
well, I despise Final Fantasy with the likes of which I can't describe.
Well, Mystic Quest isn't actually part of the Final Fantasy franchise. I think it was given the name Final Fantasy to bring in the people who like the earlier game, but it's like kind of a beginner RPG.
I wasn't into RPGs. I'm still not into RPGs. I'm still not. Even though some people say the Division is within that world, I'm like, not to me. So, yeah. And it's it's Courtney's fault.
I love RPGs, and it's like a lot of games now are technically RPGs, they just don't have those same elements or all the same elements that people think of as RPGs.
Well, I would visit Courtney and she would just sit there and play Final Fantasy. I'm trying to remember it just had a reboot.
Was it 7?
Whichever that popular one was, Cloud or something, I think one of the characters.
Yeah, that's 7.
Yeah.
Hey, the Final Fantasy 7 remake is awesome.
Well, I'll never find out. But she played the original all the time for literally hours on end. I'd be sitting there watching that game, visiting the whole time. It'd be 5 hours every fucking time of that game. So I grew to absolutely despise that game to a point where it's almost like I played it and I never even played it. But I fucking hate it. So... But I knew you would have something Final Fantasy on here.
All right. That's not the only one.
I'm sure it's not. Number 8. Why on earth should I leave the world of wrestling? Wrestling had a lot of good games. This one I liked a little bit more than Super WrestleMania, and that's Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble, what made this game so interesting to me is, one, Undertaker was on the cover. So I was like, okay, I'm in, and Undertaker's like my second favorite wrestler of all time. Another is a certain guy over here, the bad guy, Razor Ramon. Razor's one of my favorites. So when I was playing this game, usually I was either Undertaker or Razor Ramon. So constant, you don't see Hogan on the cover, so I didn't have to deal with any of that BS. I would usually on this game beat up either Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels, two people I'm not a fan of, but that's just how kind of I was. I mean, you find the wrestler you love, you play them, you always make them beat up the wrestler you don't like. This also, the Royal Rumble, for those who are wrestling fans, a Royal Rumble is starts out with 2 people, and every 2-3 minutes a new wrestler comes in, and by the end you could have, it's all the way at 30. This had that Royal Rumble match in it. Now, it wouldn't get to that point because this is Super Nintendo. Technology wasn't going to go that far. But I think you could have like up to 4 or 5, maybe 6, somewhere around that range of people in the ring. So that was revolutionary at the time. But Royal Rumble was just a fun game for me to play. It was fun playing these wrestling games. Those early wrestling games were just so damn fun. Even when it got to PlayStation, they were still fun. It's just when it got to PlayStation 3 that things just did not work anymore, and I had to stop playing wrestling games. I have not played one since, I think, 2K14, I think, is the last wrestling game I played. So that's a very long time ago. But what can I say? At least they made it on this countdown. It was a better era for wrestling video games. My number 8, WWF Royal Rumble. 7, what you got?
I put 2 games in here, Breath of Fire 1 and 2. I enjoyed both of these games.
Zelda?
No, they're role-playing games, but it's not Zelda. No, that's Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Okay. Yeah, that's the newest Zelda games. No, this is Breath of Fire. Your main character is descended from a clan of dragons, so eventually you turn into a dragon as you're fighting.
Yep, this sounds like one of your games.
Yeah, it's a fun game. I've been playing the first one. I need to get back to it, but they have 1 and 2 on the Switch with their emulator. So that's why I started replaying them. It's like I like the games. And it had the interesting concept of each player that joined your party, then they had different actions they could take on the screen for different activities. Like there's a mole that character that can dig in the ground and find treasure for you at specific spots. Oh, there's a hunter, so you can shoot the different animals that wander around, so you can get food that you can use to heal your characters. And there's like a little bit of a town building scenario in these games too.
Okay. Don't remember those games, but then again, sounds like it's a game I wouldn't have even paid attention to back in the day. I probably saw it sitting on a shelf and didn't give it no attention. Don't recall seeing it in any of the magazines I was reading back then because, folks, back then we did not have the internet to look up video games. You had to get magazines. You had to have other friends who maybe bought the game, or you went to a video store and rented a game. I know these are foreign concepts nowadays.
Yeah, I think about that. I think about that because my kids will play games and they get stuck and they just go online and they're like, okay, how do I do this? Hell, my son taught himself how to make scrambled eggs by going on YouTube and finding a video.
Yeah.
You
can find anything to beat now. Online.
I know.
It'll teach you how to beat the game.
And I'm sitting there thinking about different games I've played. And it's like, how did I figure this out? It's like
I wonder that with Zelda, when I beat Zelda, because there was so much secret shit in there. Same thing with Castlevania. It's like, how did I figure out that I could duck right there and a tornado would pick me up? But somehow I figured it out.
Well, it's like
didn't tell you.
One of the games that didn't make my list was Lagoon. And I remember getting stuck on Lagoon. And it's like, what am I supposed to do here? And then at some point I figured out, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to jump over this spot. I didn't realize I was supposed to jump there. It's like, okay.
Yeah, the old school games had a lot of those stupid little knickknacks. And the games nowadays don't quite have that anymore. Not as bad. They have puzzles, but they're helping you a lot of the way so you can figure it out. Some are tougher than others. There are some puzzles that are really tough that you do have to give some thought, but there's not as many of those as there used to be.
Because the game makers know we're just going to Google it.
Yeah, they know you can just look online. So it kind of defeats the purpose of the fun. I don't do that, but have been a couple of games that really, really pushed my buttons, and I was really tempted to look to see, okay, if I die one more time, I'm going to look online to see how to beat this fucker. Because this is getting ridiculous. I've died 100 times. But all right. My number 7. Number 7 is I love playing sports games. Sports games have always been a part of my video game library, and no different back then. Still getting sports games. This is one of those sports games that's somewhat iconic. Wasn't no Madden yet. What I had back then was Tecmo Super Bowl. Tecmo Bowl was a series that carried over from regular Nintendo. There was Tecmo Bowl, and it was somewhat revolutionary because you could play as all the players, all the teams. It had the up-to-date things. It was licensed by the NFL. And then John Madden showed up and, well, Madden took over. But sometimes, with Madden the way it is now, I wish I could go back and play Super Tecmo Bowl. Because Madden nowadays is such shit, and it's just horrible, and it's just bad. It's the same game now every year with Madden, with no fucking improvements, literally since maybe like Madden 13. It's just the same game to a point where you'll find old game art in the new games. You'll play Madden 21, and you'll see an ad for Madden 20. So it's like, are y'all that fucking lazy? But Tecmo Bowl, this was just, if you look at the graphics of the game, it's a fucking joke. But you could throw the ball like 90 yards. No player could really do that in real life. Certain players, I would just give them the ball and they'd run for 90-yard touchdowns every fucking time because the game made them so damn fast. But I didn't care. It was fun football, and it was one of these games, again, that I would play with other people a lot. Back then, I played video games with people a lot more than I do now. And this was one of those games that would start fights a little bit. People would get a little argumentative over losing. And unlike today, when they're online and on a headset, maybe in another country, back then they're sitting right next to you. So it's a little different. The smack talk's a little different. it's easy to say whatever you want on a headset, but when they're sitting right next to you, you have to be a little bit more careful with what you say.
Hey,
But
my sisters hit me with the controllers when they lost.
oh yeah, oh yeah, I've been there. I've had that happen. I've definitely had that happen. I've had the controllers thrown at me. Somebody use it like an Indiana Jones whip. Like, hey, whatever, bro. But Super Tecmo Bowl, like I said, just fun game, fun era playing football. And I just wish the football games nowadays could somehow channel what Tecmo had, because Madden has lost its way so far, so badly that it's just unrecognizable.
Well, really, how much could football games improve? You're playing football. The game hasn't changed that much.
Oh, it could improve, because here's the thing. Along the way, they took out so much stuff that was good and left nothing. They took out all the good stuff and just left you with this empty husk. So it's kind of like you were given this box, it's this golden box, and you open it and there's a turd inside. When before the golden box had money, candy, you name it. Now you open it and there's just a turd. Not even a brand new turd. The same turd for the last 7 years.
Well, at least a 7-year-old turd doesn't stink as bad as a fresh turd just squeezed out.
No, it's just the same turd every year. But anyway, that's my number 7. Tecmo Bowl. What you got?
Okay, number 6 is Earthbound, another RPG.
I figured.
Of this game. It's kind of set on Earth.
I figured.
All the towns are like called, there's like the first town is like 1 something, and the second one is 2 something. And you're playing a little kid who has psychic powers. You have his dog travels with you. And you pick up your friends along the way. You have this little cheesy guy every now and iconic moments who drops out of the sky and takes your picture. And he's like, say fuzzy pickles. And this had all the monsters showed up on the screen, so you could try to avoid them, or you could run for them if you wanted to attack them, rather than just having random combats just pop up when you're walking around. And it also had the benefit when you walked up on something that the game knew was an easy kill for you, it just killed them and gave you experience and gold for it. But what's funny is that at the beginning of the game, it asked you a couple questions, like it asked what your favorite food was, so that whenever you went home, your mom would be like, here, eat this and go to bed. And so you eat your favorite food, you go to bed. It also asked you what your favorite thing was to do. And so that became your most powerful spell, was using your favorite thing. I had a friend who was a big Marilyn Manson fan. And so this was in the mid-90s. And so she put down that her favorite food was cake and her favorite thing was sodomy. And so it turned out that killing monsters, you used the sodomy spell. So she'd be sodomizing the monsters to kill them.
Yeah, I don't think you could do that nowadays. Video games don't like having cuss words, except for the ones they put in.
Yeah.
They don't want you using anything. I mean, there's on Division 2, there's a gear set called Rigger, Rigger. I have the loadout of all of it, and I saved it, and I just save it all with its actual name. It won't let me. Well, you guess why?
Well, you can also guess what me as a teenage boy playing this game said his favorite food was.
That's okay.
Yes.
That's okay. But back then, yeah, I named a lot of characters after cuss words back then, because the games would let you. Nowadays, you can't really do that. Too much editing.
This one was these games weren't connected to the internet, so nobody else saw it. So that's part of why it was allowed.
Oh yeah, I know. But still, it was funny because you would see people with having these stupidest names for their save files. And it's like, really? You named it that? I mean, I remember some people had butt munch, ass. One of my friends had ass eater. I'm like, why did you have that? He's like, I thought it was funny.
Well, people get pretty creative with the way they get the swear words into their names on the PlayStation Network. So I think I saw one last night that was like Bang Grandma or something like that. Bang Granny, that's what it was.
Yeah, some of those names are a little off. All right, my number 6. Number 6 is a serious push forward in the video game genre. This was a game that took it to another level, and the fact that they were able to do it on the Super Nintendo and its technology speaks something. This is a classic game. Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country. Now, obviously, if you've been a Nintendo fan, you know who Donkey Kong is. That's one of, if you got the Atari or you had Nintendo, you're familiar with Donkey Kong. You just were on the other side because you were this fat little guy who would eventually become Mario. And you're just slowly climbing up to this top part where Donkey Kong is throwing you barrels and you have to leap up. You have the mouth, all that stupid shit. He was always a side character. He did get some games, but nothing major.
Well, he was the villain.
Yeah, he was the villain, but they somewhere along the line switched him. And Donkey Kong Country was the first game I gave him a shot on his own. This game was 3D, which at the time, nowadays, that's not a big deal. But back then, this was something. This was unique. Every other video game looked weak compared to Donkey Kong. Now, unfortunately, they did do some sequels with Diddy Kong. I didn't stay in the franchise that long. I just played Donkey Kong Country, and that game is just hysterically fun. I remember the stupid bees that would fly around would always get me killed. I don't know why I couldn't get past those damn bees, but they would constantly kill me. This game pissed me off because it took me so long to beat it, but that's what I liked. It was challenging when a lot of other Super Nintendo games weren't challenging me. This was one of the very few that did, and it stuck out to me clearly. This is one of those games, if I could, I would totally dip back in, but I don't like playing video games on a computer, and it's probably on the mini Super Nintendo, but I'm not buying it. So Donkey Kong Country, an amazing game, classic for the time, revolutionary, and that's why it makes it on as my number 6. What you got is 5.
Okay, well, I'm going to be looking, but I think Donkey Kong Country was added to the Switch as one of their free games on the
I don't play
SNES
Switch.
emulator. Well,
I don't play it.
that's a way. I'm just saying that's a way for you to play it on the console. Okay, number 5 is Secret of Mana.
I knew you were going to have games that I've never heard of.
Oh, Secret of Mana is a great game. It's an RPG, but it's an action RPG. So it's like you have to move around with your combat. It gives you multiple types of weapons to use. It's just a fun game. It's like I just last Christmas, I got the, on the Switch, they had a compilation. They had the Final Fantasy Adventure, which was technically the first Secret of Mana game. It was just labeled as Final Fantasy, so it is selling in the United States. And so it had that one, had Secret of Mana, and had Trials of Mana, which previously hadn't been released in the United States. So I just recently played Secret of Mana again and beat it. And this is a fun game. It's like you have 3 characters. This would let you plug in other controllers so you can have a friend help you out as you're playing. I liked the game when I first played it. I still like it now.
Yeah, sorry, never heard of it. Not that big of a shock, but
they had other games that went on. I think a few of them were on the PlayStation.
You said the key word back then that would have turned me off from any video game: role playing. If it's just not my genre, especially back then. Nowadays, that term doesn't mean quite the same as it used to. Back then, that was a defined, totally separate genre. It just meant something different. Now, kind of goes all over the place. So.
Yeah, well, Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3 are all available on the Switch with the free emulator.
Oh boy. All right. Now we're top 5. My number 5. Once again, back into the world of sports. And I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. Bulls are my team. They've always been my team. And back in the day, there was not a whole lot of great basketball games. There were some good ones, some decent ones. This was one of the ones that stuck out to me the most. Once you see it, you'll figure out why this one stuck out the most. And it's Bulls versus Blazers, the NBA playoffs. Now, obviously, it's got Bulls on the cover. So right there, I was already hooked. I get to be my guy. I get to be Jordan. So that's that. I'm already in. I'm set. I'm hooked. And this franchise would eventually spawn off and create the NBA Live franchise, which I was loyal to these NBA games for a long time. Until they were making these games all the way back in 1989, because the first one was Lakers versus Celtic. Now, I didn't get it because I hate the Lakers and I hate the Celtics. So I didn't want anything to do with it. The next one was Bulls versus Lakers. And that's what introduced me to the franchise. And I stayed with it. They did Team USA basketball. Then there came this. There was a game called NBA Showdown. It wasn't that good, but I played it. And that's when it spawned off and became NBA Live. And NBA Live was the number one NBA game for a long time. I played this game all the way up until NBA Live 10, which came out in 2009. So I was with this franchise for 20 years, and they fucked it up by changing the name to NBA Elite. And then for 2 years, they didn't even make a new game. And along the way, 2K came up, and 2K now has become the game. And now I play 2K because NBA Live didn't make a new game for 2 years. And when they finally did do NBA Live 14, let's just say it wasn't very memorable. But Bulls vs. Blazers, loved playing as my Bulls. It's a rare game to play now because you don't get to be Jordan in video games, because there came a point where Jordan just didn't want to be on video games anymore. And that's another reason for some that NBA Live kind of separated from me. And 2K, the first 2K game I got, had Jordan on the cover. So, but NBA Live, great franchise. And it all started at the early days with the versus playoffs. But the one that stood out to me the most, Bulls versus. That's why it makes it into my number 5. All right. What do you got? Number 4, sir.
Oh, another twofer, and it's another RPG.
Of course.
Lufia and the Fortress of Doom and Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals.
Yep. Never heard of it.
Oh, both are great games. And the second game is kind of a prequel to the first one. So, like in the first game, there's a town you go to that's famous for these specific flowers that grow there. In the first game, or in the second game, then your characters have to go find the seeds, and you take them to that town and start planting them. So, like little hint in the second game of things you did that are the reason that something happened in the first game. And it just was fun. It was like RPG. This one was, a little different, where every time you moved, then the monsters would move. So you move and you attack or whatever. They also had endless dungeons. Well, the second one had an endless dungeon that went up to 100 levels. And I don't think I ever beat the dungeon.
Oh, wow. So this is a game you haven't beaten.
I beat the game. I just didn't beat the mini game within the game.
Oh, a mini game. Okay.
Because it's like you're supposed to go up 100 levels, and then you could make little monsters you could grow and join your party. It's like their final evolution was by beating this dungeon.
Do you plan on trying to beat this, or are you still trying?
If I ever find it, if I ever play it again, I will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So well, my apartment flooded and at the time that I was playing the second one, and my Super NES was sitting on the floor. The game was in the console.
Oh,
yeah. Then it all got flooded.
Yeah. Somehow you're not shocking me. You have all these role-playing games. I'm not into role-playing, although you did get me into one. I'm not sure if you remember it.
Is this going to be your number 4?
No, because it didn't come out on Super Nintendo.
Oh.
This came out on PlayStation. Baldur's Gate 2.
Oh, yeah. They just had a new release.
I only played Baldur's Gate 2.
No, there's a new Dark Alliance. You might like it.
I know there's a new one. I only played that one, and I bought that one, and it's amazing because that thing still costs $60. I mean, it still has the price of a brand new game because it's so rare. And it wasn't rare when I bought it. When I decided I liked it, I just went out and bought it, and that was it.
Yeah.
That game is rare and hard to find, and it's weird because I played Baldur's Gate 1. It sucks. And so it's like, and I only played it because I liked Baldur's Gate 2. So I was like, oh, maybe I should get into this series. So I played 1. I'm like, no, I'll just play Baldur's Gate 2.
Yeah, this new Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. It's like, I thought about getting on the PlayStation, but they don't have co-op play. But it's like, oh, it's going to be on the Switch too. So because me and my wife used to play the earlier Dark Alliance games. I was like, okay, she has her Switch, I have mine. We can play together.
That's the only role-playing game you ever got. And I don't even know how you got me into Baldur's Gate. I have no freaking idea, but somehow I got into that game and loved it and bought it. Still own it, and I still play it. I played that last year. All right, my number 4. Once again, staying with sports. Not a shock. I'm a sports fan, so there's going to be a lot of sports games on here. He's got the role playing, I got the sport. I've had football, I've had basketball. Now it's for my favorite sport, which is baseball. Baseball has always been my favorite sport, and baseball games, as far as video games today, MLB The Show is the best in video game sporting games to me. It's better than Madden, it's better than 2K. The Show is where it's at. Back in the day, there was a Major League Baseball game that was fashioned off of one of the biggest players around that time, who is since now a Hall of Famer. King Griffey Jr.'s baseball. King Griffey Jr. was a superstar. He was the star. Later, he would almost challenge to get the home run record. But this game, now I'm a Red Sox and a Braves fan, but I would play a lot of seasons as the Mariners because I liked being Ken Griffey. And being his game, he made himself pretty amazing. You were almost guaranteed to hit at least one home run a game with him. He made himself just super.
I
And
used to have his rookie card.
you used to?
Yeah.
You lost it? Or was it in the box for the flood?
I don't remember. I just know that I had his rookie card.
This game came with a card. This came with a card that I still have.
Oh no, got it randomly in a pack of baseball cards.
I have a box full of baseball cards. He's in there somewhere. So who knows? I might have his rookie card in there. I don't know. It's just full of baseball cards. Since they're not worth anything like they used to be, I don't pay attention anymore. But MLB, like I said, it's my favorite sport. All the teams were on here, all the players, all the stats. And at the time, it may not seem like a big deal now, but at the time, there was a lot of sports games that couldn't get full rosters, full staff. This is one of the games that did because it was sponsored by Major League Baseball. And there would be another Ken Griffey game, but it wasn't as good. This was the better one. And eventually we would get to a point where MLB The Show would come along, and that is just the zenith of baseball and sporting games. In fact, when this podcast is done recording, I'm going to be hopping on and I'm going to be playing MLB The Show. So I said it before, baseball is my favorite sport I love the most. So I have a harder love for the baseball games, and I'm going to be a lot more critical on them than any other sport. And Super Nintendo, this was one of the games that got it right, and that's why it's high up, and it is the last of sports. There's no more sporting games on this list. But it's not a shock that the one that's the highest up is a baseball game. King Griffey, Major League Baseball, my number 4. 3, sir.
Okay. EVO, The Search for Eden.
Yep, another game never heard of.
I love this game. You start out, you play as a fish. You have to eat other fish. You get points to evolve different traits. Bigger jaws.
You evolved to eat a goldfish?
Well, no, I think probably you started as goldfish.
Oh.
I don't remember what they called it, but it's like you evolve like different fins so you can move faster, you have more health, you do more damage when you attack. Then eventually you get to the point where you become a reptile. And so you can go onto land, you become a dinosaur. There's a point where you can either become a bird or evolve into a mammal. And so that's the game.
The one to go with.
Yeah, it's like that's the game. You just keep evolving as you kill other animals and eat their meat. You gain more evolution points to give better stats for your character.
Does the asteroid show up?
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Better be a mammal. Better be a mammal. If not, your days are numbered.
But it was a fun game. You could choose how you looked, what change your appearance based on what you evolved into.
Does the game end with the asteroid? I mean, there's not much left. It doesn't end. Things keep going after the asteroid. You better be a mammal.
Because that's when you're a mammal. Or a bird, because the bird survived after the asteroid.
Oh, it forces you to be one of those at that point? What if you were a dinosaur? Does it end for you? Because you're dead then. Dinosaurs didn't live after that.
I think as dinosaurs, you either evolved into a bird or just the way the story progressed. If you weren't a bird, you became a mammal.
So it forced you.
Kind of, more or less.
Because it knew you were about to die.
But it was a fun game. I liked it. I would like to see a remake of that. Something newer. That's one of the games I go on and I emulate every couple of years.
Yeah, I pass. I will not be checking that game out. Sorry, bro.
I even bought a board game based off of it.
That doesn't shock me. That doesn't shock me. Number 3. I was wondering if it was any shot in the world that we would share a game. I thought maybe there'd be a game, but I thought even that was going to be slim.
Is this Super Mario World?
Yes, it is. Super Mario World. I was like, I'm looking at all my games. I'm like, okay, he's not going to be at Power Rangers on there. He's not going to have no wrestling games. He's not going to have any sporting games. I don't know. There's an offshoot, maybe Donkey Kong. He had to have Super Mario World if he had the system because it came with it. So he had to have that. And I'm not going to mention the other ones yet. So it's like, okay, Super Mario World is probably the only one I'm probably going to have a shot at up until this point. Here's hoping. And as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh, thank God, at least there's something in common. Super Mario World, listen, for gamers nowadays, you don't understand the concept of a system coming with a game. I mean, this was a foreign concept to you because it doesn't come with games anymore.
And that's
but
bullshit.
Even though it's bullshit, even though you can download a whole bunch for free, but you still have to do something to get the games. Back then,
they even quit giving out free games with systems before you're able to download free game.
I know. Yeah, it was ridiculous. PlayStation, they stopped it there too.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? That pissed me off so much.
I think for me, Genesis was the last one that came with a game. It came with Sonic. It came with Sonic, which is sad because that was the best game of the whole freaking series.
It's like, I think the PlayStation 1 came with a demo disc of different games.
It was a demo, which doesn't count.
Yeah, that's not a game.
Doesn't count. Yeah, that's not a full game. But Super Mario World, I was at this point wondering, how are they going to top Mario? Because to me, Super Mario 3 is still the best of the Mario series as far as those games. Super Mario 3 is, and it came out right around my birthday, so it was just, the stars were aligned.
Yeah, Super Mario All-Stars was a Super Nintendo game, but I didn't think it really fit into this list because
it doesn't.
They were all games from the Nintendo.
Yeah, it's somewhat an offshoot. But Super Mario World, they took it to another level with this game, and they completely somewhat managed to change everything, but not too badly, and still made it entertaining. Now, I hated Yoshi.
Oh, I loved Yoshi.
I hated Yoshi.
Especially Blue Yoshi.
Yoshi annoyed the absolute living crap out of me. So I would avoid Yoshi at all costs unless I had no choice, because there was a few levels, kind of don't really have a choice.
Well, Blue Yoshi was necessary for some levels.
Like I said, there's a few levels you don't have a choice. But the rest of the game, I would avoid Yoshi like plague. But Super Mario World, for the fact that this was one of its best games and it came with the system, we got this one for free. I wish video games systems would do this again. Just give us one damn game. You could give us one. Not asking you to give us one of your games that are like $60-$70. Give us a stupid little $30 game. Give us a $20 game for free. Just throw it in there.
We're spending hundreds of dollars on the system. Give us a game with that.
Especially when you're spending hundreds of hours, hundreds of years trying to find the system. Yes, I'm still bitter on that, even though I have a PlayStation 5. It should not have taken me 6 months to get that thing. That was ridiculous. There are still people out there who still don't have that thing yet because they can't find it.
Well, I don't have one, but I haven't been looking.
You're not looking. I was looking. Every day I was looking. But Super Mario World, it's up there as far as all the Mario games. It is still fun. Like a top 2. It's still fun to play. It is still very fun. And if I was to get a Super Nintendo Mini, that would be one of the few reasons I would get it, is to play Super Mario World, because it was one of the best of that console for that era. And very memorable. Played this one a lot. I actually, me and some friends would always play this game together. This was just one of those fun games. And Mario, say what you want, but that character is king of video games.
Super Mario World is one of them that are available on the Switch emulator.
Oh, here we go again.
Well, I'm just saying, if you find other games,
you work for Switch.
No, I don't. But if you find other games you like on the Switch and you decide to get one, then there's a side effect of that, is you can play Super Mario World again whenever you want.
This episode is brought to you by Switch.
Hey, I love my Switch.
Obviously, you've mentioned it about 20 times at this point, but that's okay. But
it makes sense with what we're talking about.
I get it. I get it. It's okay. But that is my number 3, Super Mario World. What you got is your runner-up, the game that just didn't quite make it to number 1.
Okay, this was a really tough choice. Number 1, number 2 are my favorite games on the Super Nintendo. I have a tattoo with a character from each of these games.
Okay.
And the one I play the second most is Final Fantasy IV. I love this game. It came out in the United States as Final Fantasy II, and I never played the first Final Fantasy game on the Nintendo because I never had one. And after getting my Super Nintendo, I remember renting Final Fantasy II and playing it all night. I was up till the sun came up playing this game and beat it on a 2-day rental. And I love this game. I still play it every couple of years. I find an emulator if I don't have it on one of my systems. Final Fantasy IV is a great game. And I have a tattoo of Cecil as the paladin. And he's holding up the sword from the other character that'll be in my number 1. And it's like so much I like about this game. There's also the problems I like because obviously if you love something, you're gonna have your hates with it. And my biggest hate with Final Fantasy IV was the Bard. Oh my god, Edward was so fucking horrible in this game.
I'll just take your word for it because I don't even know who that is or what it is. So,
yes, you would hate Edward the Bard if you played this game.
Well, I would hate the game, so
no, you might like the game.
No,
you would hate Edward.
No, I'm never gonna play that game, bro.
It's like it's like some of the later Final Fantasy games have so much to do, but this one, it's just really fairly straightforward. You have the story it's telling, and it just takes you on it, and you just have to stop every now and then, kill a bunch of monsters, so you can be strong enough to continue on the game.
I should have known Final Fantasy would be up at the top.
Yeah,
okay,
I love Final Fantasy IV. I'm sorry.
No, you're not sorry.
Yeah, I'm not.
All right. Number 2. This just barely did not make it. This is a game I so want to play because this franchise somewhat still going on. They're still doing some games for them, but they're not the same. They did do a reboot of one of this franchise's older games, but I can't play it.
How could it barely make your list, but it's number 2? It would have been 3 or 4 if you liked it that much.
Because they stopped for a while making these games, and some that they made afterward were not good. And plus the characters, well, they also changed a little bit. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time. The Turtle games, this starts all the way back with Nintendo when they did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The first game absolutely sucked.
Yes, it did.
It was horrible.
Fucking water state. The second stage in the game.
The seaweed.
That seaweed, the electrified seaweed. Second level in the game. That was so fucking hard.
Yeah, the seaweed. Yeah, that anyone that played that game, you know what we're talking about. That made you throw your controller a dozen times. You probably broke at least 2 controllers just with that level. But the game itself was ridiculous. It was stupid. It was mindless. It just was bad. Then they made Turtles 2. That video game is friggin' awesome. It's like, how do you fuckers make that first one and then you make this? Which, it was awesome. It was perfect. And from that moment, I stayed with the Turtle franchise video games, which carried into Turtles in Time. Now, obviously, you get the idea just from the title. The Turtles go in time. They're sent back in time from Shredder and Krang. I believe the way the game started out was Krang steals the Statue of Liberty at the beginning of the game. Stupid plot, but who cares? It's the Turtles. It's talking, walking Ninja Turtles. So who cares about a plot? But at this time, the Turtles were still a big part of my life because we'd had the movie, the live action movie. We had the second movie, which is good. Of course, the animated series. So Turtles were just huge. And this game, I spent way too much time playing this Turtle game. And of course, you had the co-op, so you could have people play with you. But there was a rule at my house. You could be any turtle you want, but Raph. Raph was my turtle. You're not going to be Raph. If you don't like that, I loved Raph.
Raph is the worst.
Raph was always my favorite because he had an attitude. For those who know me, come on, pretty close. I'm
No,
not a I'm
the
not a party
sire.
dude.
No, his sire is so horrible. You want a ranged weapon. You want something to give you some range between you and the enemy.
That was the other reason I liked Raph. You had to be a little good at the game to be Raphael to get through it because his weapon is so short because it's small. But I was good at this game. And, I was very good at this game. I could get through the games without dying a single time. So I didn't have problems. It was other people who did have the range weapons like Donatello. They'd be dying and I would have to keep saving them. So come on. But Turtles in Time, they did recently do a reshelled version of this game. It's a 3D remake. I think it came out, oh geez, I think it's Xbox. I can't remember, but they just recently did one of these. But I don't have Xbox, so it's not gonna help me any. But Turtles in Time, love the Turtles. This was an easy slam dunk for me to be at the top, and it just barely couldn't make it as number one. And when I say the number one, you'll understand why. But number two, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Cowabunga. All right. Numero uno, sir, which you already hinted to pretty much what it is.
Yes,
Pretty much we know what genre it is, and I'm pretty sure I know which one it is.
Number one is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Yep.
Like I mentioned, my tattoo, I have Link holding the Paladin sword from Final Fantasy IV, and Cecil is holding the Master Sword. Yes, I play this game multiple times a year. I've already played and beat it twice this year. I love this game. It's like just slipping into a nice pair of shoes that you're used to, that you've already broken in. It's like you have all the heart pieces that take you a while to find, but now when I just play through the game, I'm just playing in where I used to have to go look up where to find the last couple heart pieces. Now I just get to the end and I already found them all. It's a great game. I can't help it. And if you haven't played it, then they came out with the direct sequel, the Link Between Worlds for what was that for? The whatever their most recent their most recent mobile one. What do they call that? I can't even remember now. The DS, the Nintendo DS, that's what it was. Yeah, so then that was a link between worlds. You get to go back into the world you already knew and loved and see similar places, similar dungeons, but with a big twist. And everything was like a little bit different. But yeah, Link to the Past was a great Zelda game. And I'm going to play it probably every year till I die, at least once.
Zelda franchise. I love that first game on Nintendo. It is one of the greatest video games ever made.
Yeah, and the second game is one of the worst.
And the second game was such ass that I was done. I was done right there. I stopped.
Oh no, Link to the Past made up for the second game.
I can't go back.
You should give it a try.
That second game was such ass. I could not forgive them. So I stopped right there.
And it's like a lot of the games from the Super NES era, the graphics don't hold up. But Link to the Past, it was so cartoony that it didn't fit into the genre. So it doesn't look like it's outdated.
Plus, I've watched some videos about the Zelda games. It's been called one of the most convoluted timelines in video game history.
Oh, yes,
it's all over the map. It has no cohesive timeline.
Yes, it has multiple dimensions as well, where it's like some of the games are like, okay, so if Link won in this game, it's this world. These games take place after that. These games take place after Link lost. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of bullshit in the timeline. But Link to the Past is a fun game.
Yeah, I unfortunately gave up the Zelda franchise. And I did hop back once, but I was at the wrong time. I cannot remember this damn series, but it was this 3 video game series. It was Philips had a game console where they made 3 Zelda games. Oh God, they are ass. They are just unbelievably shit. I mean, it actually made the second Zelda game on Nintendo classic. That's how bad. Oh yes. Look them up. They are horrifically bad. The system doesn't even exist anymore. It doesn't exist. This is on a just a banished system. But these games are legendary for just how bad they are. I don't know if people listen to the Angry Video Game Nerd, but he reviewed these games too. They are bad. They're just bad. It's not even worth trying to play them, but it's totally worth seeing how bad these games are. They're just bad. That's all I'm gonna say. They're just bad. Trust me. Just trust me. But I figured you'd have Zelda on there too. I knew Zelda, and I see it. I knew Zelda was gonna be the somewhere high up there. All right, my number one. Now, I've kind of already hinted to what number one is a little bit. When it comes to Nintendo, one guy stands upon high. One man reigns supreme with Nintendo. And of course, he has to be on the list, and he makes it on my list twice. Super Mario Kart. This game was just fun.
It does not hold up.
It doesn't hold up anymore. But back then, all your friends were hanging around. You were playing this game and you were getting in fights, especially when somebody used that damn red shell. When somebody used that red shell on you and you were just about to cross and you spun out right in front of it and went to the side and they went right by you. The vulgarities that were coming out of my room, and I was about 12 or 13, I think, when this game came out. Yeah, I got in trouble a lot because of this game, but it was so damn fun. Now, the Mario Kart franchise did not survive very well with me. I tried to get into the ones later, and they just sucked. For some odd reason, just that first one held up.
I'm liking 8. I'm liking Mario Kart 8.
I gave up around, I think it was 3 or 4. And even then, it wasn't mine that I was playing. I was playing on somebody else's system. So they're like, come on, you like Mario Kart. I'm like, no, not this one, though. But Super Mario Kart was just the bomb. Had a lot of fun with the friends. This one, I didn't play this one too much by myself. It was always with friends coming over. So to use a word that would become a video game, we would constantly have Mario parties, which was another game. But Super Mario Kart, damn fun, enjoyable. Love this game. And it was the easiest slam dunk of number one that I could have, just barely though, over Turtles.
Oh, what was fun a couple years ago, then the Science Center had a night where they played I think it was Wii U games at the time. So it was whatever the Mario Kart was for the Wii U. We were playing the Mario Kart on the IMAX screen.
That'd be interesting.
That was amazing.
That would be interesting, playing a video game on a screen that big.
I know.
That would be actually interesting, because you're playing a character that's basically bigger than you now.
Yes.
So that would be fun. I wish I'd have known about that, but I wouldn't have played it for the Wii. That would have to be something PlayStation.
Well, that's what they had set up at the time. But it was fun.
I bet it was. But that's our countdown, folks. You have anything you want to plug, Freak? You said you had a previous podcast that you have done.
Zombie Anonymous. If you want to listen, we talked a lot about beers that we were drinking, and we talked zombie stuff. And we're part of the I can't even remember the name of the network now, but it'll be mentioned on there, and there's still podcasts from that network going strong. So if you listen to the episodes or hear about other podcasts you might be interested in.
All right, so go out there and look at that. Go listen to, give those guys a try. Now, it's no new episodes anymore. You guys stopped doing the show, but the episodes are still out there for those
they should be.
Look about. All right. And as far as this podcast, what'd you think of this countdown? Let me know. You can let me know by several methods. If you have your own ideas, you can send me an email. Just send the email over to countdown2020@gmail.com. Also on Facebook, got a Facebook page. You can go over there, give me your ideas, tell me what you think. Also can listen to the show over there. Just search at the Countdown 2020 Podcast 1. Also on Twitter, you can listen on there as well. Give me your ideas. Tell me what you think. Just search at the Countdown PO1. Can listen to the show on Spotify. Just search the Countdown 2020. On Instagram, just search the Countdown 20. Amazon Audible, just search the Countdown Podcast. I got the YouTube channel, of course. Just search the Countdown Podcast with MJ Book. There's 2 options on there. You can just listen to the show because there's an audio one, or you can watch the show being recorded. Those are unedited, uncensored, or unedited, I should say. So everything that's just bad that I normally edit out, you see in the video. And all are available through Podbean. Just search the Countdown Podcast, or go to the website that's connected to Podbean, countdown2020.podbean.com. Please like, listen, follow, subscribe. Give me your ideas. I survive by the listeners. I appreciate every single one of you who've ever listened to the show, whether it's once, twice, or every single time. Want to give a shout out to Incomtech.com for the royalty-free music, Kevin MacLeod, Ice Flow, that you hear at the beginning of the show. And for those who listen, you hear at the end. Been there from the beginning. And is there anything you'd like to say before I close this out?
Nope.
And a very few words. But
sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. But I appreciate you coming on, Freak. Thanks. We've been talking about doing this one for a while. We finally got it knocked out, and that was my fault. But
I've missed podcasting since Zombie Anonymous ended. So thank you for having me.
Well, you're always welcome on. Anytime you have an idea, just let me know. And that's it, folks. I will catch you all again on the next episode of The Countdown. Have yourself a great one, or evening, whatever time it is. Bye.